They're incorrect, and we will vote them out.
Vote them out! 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 Vote out! Vote them out! Vote them out!
Guys,
Vote them out! Vote them out!
we're gonna take last calls for anyone who wants to come up over the next 10 minutes or so. So please just come up to the front. Like we said, this is a safe space, even though it might not feel like it. So anyone who's welcome. We have already 3 people, but please do come up.
No liars on the court. Precedent matters. 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 No liars on the court.
Hi, my name is Zentia. I am a survivor of sexual assault and sexual abuse. I am also have been previewed to those elite schools and the parties that go on. And unfortunately, the story that Christina Ford told, I've seen many times. And none of them speak up, none of the women speak up because it's a thing. And I'm tired of that thing. I've spent years, I felt like in a box not knowing what to do, feeling so helpless because all these men have walked around without any consequence while I bared the burden. And this movement has given me the most hope that I've ever had. I am a mom of 6 children, and I want my daughter to be in a place, in a world where she can speak up, where my sons know that it is wrong, that it's not okay. I'm deeply concerned that they are turning this into something normal. It is not normal under any circumstances. I'm happy that we're all here and that I could share this with you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'll be honest, I'm a privileged white male. And part of my privilege is that I get the opportunity to live in a wonderful county called Montgomery County, where Brett Kavanaugh is from. During his second day of hearings, he said that it was a city filled with drug violence, gang violence. Nobody is. Hi, my name is Tony Fair, and I'm here from Cleveland, Ohio. I was sexually assaulted by my own father when I was a small child. So many women in my life, in my world, have been sexually assaulted, and I am here in solidarity with them and with all of you. I also am the 4th generation of women in my family to work actively for women's rights, for women's health, and for abortion rights. And I am here today to carry on the legacy of my mother, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother. I am also a teacher of young women and trans men. And I am a mother, and I am here for those people and all of the young people who are coming after me, who are going to have to live with the consequences of a Supreme Court that is dominated by wrong thinking and rapists.
Thank you.
As an Ohioan, I have 2 senators in Ohio. One of them is going to vote no today, Sherrod Brown, and I'm here to thank him. My other senator, Rob Portman, happily introduced Brett Kavanaugh to the Senate Judiciary Committee and continues to support him
Vote him out! 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 Vote him out!
Thank you, we will. When I decided to come here, I couldn't not come here, and I asked the women in my community what they wanted me to bring with me, because I am here representing hundreds and thousands of women in Ohio who would be here if they could. And the women who spoke to me, most of them came to me in tears, or they messaged me and they said, I have no words. My grief and my rage and my pain are beyond expression. So I am here to speak for them. I did have a couple of women say very specific things. My friend Nina said, could you please say, fuck you, Mitch McConnell. Fuck you, Chuck Grassley. And I'll add, fuck you, Susan Collins. And my friend Marcy said, you are wrong, and in the long run, you will lose. We are the future.
We are the future. We are the future. We are the future. We are the future. We are the future. We are the future. We are the future. We are the future.
I don't have my own story. I was just in my dorm one day at the University of Maryland College Park, and I turned on the news, and I followed the hearing, and I cried listening to Dr. Ford, and then I watched Kavanaugh do everything that I was raised not to do, not to raise my voice at authority, and not to cut other people off, not to get emotional and anger and upset. And I was shaken to my core with anger watching about how my government operates when I turn my back, when I'm not paying attention. And so I'm here to hold the government accountable when no one else will. And I can't wait to vote and change and be involved so this doesn't happen and to protect our future.
November 6th is coming!
November 6th is coming! November 6th is coming! November 6th is coming! November 6th is coming! November 6th is coming! November 6th is coming! November 6th is coming! November 6th is coming!
My name is Annie, and I'm from Maine. And I just want to say, fuck Susan Collins. She's not only let down my state, my people, and my country, she's destroyed everything that I believed about what women in politics can do, what they can achieve. And she disappointed every single woman who's been assaulted by a man of power or a man that they trusted. Women like my mother, she was sexually assaulted by her father.
Got it.
She believed she couldn't speak out because she lived in a house of men. She lived for 16 years being assaulted by the same man. But she still couldn't speak out once she left. She was abused by my father, beaten, raped, and thrown out of a moving car. She had the strength to leave him, but she couldn't find her voice. I'm here to be her voice.
So I don't know what the chances of this are, but my name is Annie, and I'm also from Maine. And I am also here to say, fuck Susan Collins. We will be voting her out. It is a disappointment to all Mainers. I want to thank Angus King for voting no on Kavanaugh. We need more men like him in Maine and across the country. We will also be getting LePage out because he is an awful human being. He was Trump before Trump was Trump. We want him gone. This is not who we are. We're going to work 2018, 2020. This is happening. Maine is with you all. We are sorry. This is not who we are. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Garrett, and thank you. I actually flew here from Iowa to speak today. And I don't know if my position has been presented much today. I'm actually a white male registered Republican. I also am an attorney and a military veteran, but I flew all the way here to speak directly to my senators to vote no on look at the camera and I want to tell them why. I have heard the main arguments to vote for him is that there is innocence until proven guilty, and that you have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But that's in a criminal proceeding. When the government is going to take your rights. But this isn't a criminal proceeding, it's a job interview. And we're not talking about taking Brett Kavanaugh's freedom away. We're talking about him overseeing our freedom for the next 4 years. And the position in that court is way too important to have someone like that overseeing our freedoms. And the second biggest argument that I've heard, which is insane to me, is that this would be a slippery slope, that all of a sudden all these people would come forward and that men would feel terrified of you women coming forward and accusing us of stuff. We need to have women feel comfortable to come forward. As good men of this country, we need to protect women and encourage them to come forward. So thank you very much. In our generation, women, we will band together and we will make change.
The Trumpophone is here. Radius, baby.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam. I'm from New York. And I just want to say to everyone here, we believe you, we hear you, and we see you. And thank you to everyone who has spoken today for your bravery and your courage. I want to say that Black Lives Matter, trans lives matter, and women's rights matter. So I came to DC to participate in Stop Kavanaugh demonstrations. If our elected officials won't listen to the American people, we'll make them. If they continue to act selfishly with only their best interest in mind, we'll remind them that the power is in our hands. American people deserve better than this nomination, and survivors deserve better than this nomination. History depends on us. But the work can't stop today. If you can go to a rally, vigil, demonstration, wherever you're from, go. Make sure your friends are registered to vote. Make sure you are registered to vote. Please vote. We are stronger in numbers. I hope that our elected officials have heard the American people this week and that they will continue to hear us over the next few months. At the end of the day, we just want to be heard. Please be the change that you want to see. Protest, organize, occupy, walk out, resist, strike, shut it down, and vote. Power to the people!
Better? Okay, all right. So I was sitting at my desk watching the hearings and watching Christine and then watching Kavanaugh. And when I was watching the commercial breaks on CNN, I was seeing all the questions that were arising about how she could forget certain aspects and how she couldn't remember every single detail. Well, I'm here to back her up because I'm the same way. I was sexually assaulted 5 or 6 years ago. I don't exactly remember which year. I was in a basement. I'm unable to recall the date, but it was cold outside. I was wearing jeans, a dark green long sleeve shirt, and that hung off my shoulder, and a North Face jacket. I could not tell you everyone that was there that night, although I am sure it was no more than 10 people. None of them could corroborate my story, not even my longtime friend who I went with. I never disclosed to her because I was ashamed. I'm not the kind of person that likes to be seen as weak, and if any man met me today from work, they'd be like, how the heck did any guy ever get near her without her permission? I drove and I could still not tell you what town it was in or what address my friends were directing me, or how by the grace of the universe I figured out how to drive myself home. But I could tell you the name of the boy that assaulted me, I'm 100% sure. I could tell you every word he said. I could tell you how it felt to have my voice crack while saying no. I could describe the smell of his hand covering my mouth. I can feel the static of my hair, the friction of my head shaking no. I could describe every second of the assault until I broke free and ran out of that house. I never saw him again. I'm certain he never thinks about it, and I'm certain I will never get over it. I'm 100% sure.
And my life fell apart. I lost who I was. The person that I was is dead now. She is no longer with us. I am a new person and I am born of rage. I am born of anger and anguish and betrayal and bitterness. Nobody who isn't a survivor can understand the feeling, this feeling that takes over your entire body, your soul which is now missing. What happens when you become a survivor? These men sitting in office, they have no fucking idea. How dare they vote when they have no idea what it's like to experience pain like this? I wondered to myself late at night if my ex-boyfriend who assaulted me after dating for 5 years, if I will have to testify against him like this when he goes into the government. Will I have to testify, and will people believe me? Yes. Believe me, because people are not believing her. And it is despicable. And I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of not being able to go online because I'm afraid of being triggered. I'm tired of not being able to watch TV because I'm afraid of being triggered. I'm afraid of living in a tiny, tiny box because everything is triggering me because men will never understand. I'm tired, and we need change. We need change. Believe her, believe me. Woo!
My name's Rhiannon, and I'm a survivor. Woo. I was in denial about it forever. I thought that the man that was my colleague, my coworker, who had been by my side, was my friend. And I thought that night when I had too much to drink and I couldn't stand up, that when we were getting in the cab, he was taking me home to be safe. And when I woke up the next morning and I couldn't remember anything, and I was naked, and I was sore, and there was a condom on the floor, that somehow it was my fault. And I worked by his side for years and made excuses. And I never told anyone, not our HR department. And when I finally did, I was asked why. It was all about me. Why did not I do X? Why did I not do Y? Why did I not do Z? Why did he rape me when I couldn't stand up, when I was basically unconscious? What the actual fuck? And I didn't tell anybody. And when I did, my friends and my colleagues remained his friend. And I stayed silent forever, and this is like literally the first time I've like told more than 2 people at once, and I feel like I'm about to fall over. Tim, if you're out there, fuck you. I'm still here. I got the full-time job, motherfucker. I got the benefits. You did not beat me. You did not take anything away from me. I am still here, and I am here for all of those of you who are quiet, who are silent, who still think it's your fault, who still work next to your rapist, or is your family is your rapist, or whatever the fucked up fuck shit's going on. I'm here for you, and I love you, and I believe you, no matter where you are, no matter how quiet you are, no matter who knows.
I love you, C-SPAN!
I am here for Asian American women and queer women who are victims of sexual violence, who are silenced and ignored. I believe you. I was sexually coerced by someone who felt entitled to my body, and though I was not a perfect victim, my pain is real. Our pain is real, and it should matter. I am here today for my sister who was raped by a friend. I am here today for my mother who was raped by a date. I am here today because I feel like there is nothing else I can do. As a resident of Washington, D.C., I have no vote. As a queer woman, I have no voice, at least not as far as this administration is concerned. All I have is my mind. All I have is my body. So I will use my body to fight this. I will occupy this space with my body until I am forcibly removed. We must listen to survivors. Those were Senator Collins' words, spoken immediately after going to great lengths to discredit a survivor who she refuses to listen to. We must listen to survivors, she says, immediately before taking action to empower Dr. Ford's abuser with one of the highest honors this nation has to offer. Shame! 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 We now live in a country where you can be arrested for a comparatively minor crime, and if you're convicted, and especially if you are black or brown or queer, for the rest of your life, you can be denied your right to vote. You can be denied your right to work. You can be denied your right to a roof over your head. But if you sexually assault multiple people, ruin multiple lives, well, you can serve as a justice on the Supreme Court. You can serve as President of the United States. We must listen to survivors, she says. How dare you? How dare you say those words when by your actions you condemn the rights of survivors for a generation to come? You do not get to pretend to be an ally if you do not stand by it. Any more survivors?
Deborah Ramirez just released a statement, so I thought I should read it so we all know. 35 years ago, the other students in the room chose to laugh and look the other way as sexual violence was perpetrated on me by Brett Kavanaugh. As I watch many of the senators speak and vote on the floor of the Senate, I feel like I'm right back at Yale where half of the room is laughing and looking the other way. only this time, instead of drunk college kids, it is U.S. senators who are deliberately ignoring his behavior. This is how victims are isolated and silenced. But I do have corroborating witnesses speaking for me, although they were not allowed to speak to the FBI. And I feel extremely grateful for them and for the overwhelming amount of support that I have received and continue to receive during this extremely difficult and painful time. There may be people with power who are looking the other way, but there are millions more who are standing together, speaking up about personal experience of sexual violence and taking action to support survivors. This is truly a collective moment of survivors and allies standing together. Thank you for hearing me, seeing me, and believing me. I am grateful for each and every one of you. We will not be silenced. We stand in truth and light. Deborah Ramirez. We believe you, Deborah Ramirez!
I wasn't going to speak, but no one else has come up. I've told this story many times because I've been in the rape justice movement for over 20 years. I've been a rape healing group leader. I've been to many rape trials with other survivors to support them. But my rape story started when I was 5 years old, 48 years ago, with a babysitter that we had. And he repeatedly raped me over about a year and a half's time. He ruined me for years. I'm 53 years old and I've struggled with PTSD my entire life. And I consider myself an incredibly strong person. I've devoted my life to helping others heal, because through helping others heal, we can heal. We all need to heal here today, but we also need to keep this rage up. I was here when Anita Hill was testifying, and now it's happening again. And this can't happen anymore. This has to stop. This president doesn't belong in the White House. He belongs in the big house. He raped a 13-year-old girl. He's destroyed her life. He's destroyed the lives of 18 or I don't know how many other women. This man who's up for the Supreme Court, we don't know how many lives he's destroyed, because I'm sure a lot of the women he's done things to now are terrified to come forward. But we all need to tell our stories. The LGBTQ movement moved forward when they broke their closet doors down. We need to break out of our secrets and tell them, tell everyone we can. People know that rape survivors are all around you, and I just want to end by saying a few statistics. 1 in 3 women worldwide are victims of violence. This is a global pandemic of violence. This isn't just in the United States. But in the United States, every 98 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted. Every 8 minutes, a child under 18 is sexually assaulted. Rape and sexual assault are convicted, and the perpetrators go to prison. 2% of every 1,000 rapes. 2. Or no, it's 6. I'm sorry, but it's 2%.
6 of every 1,000?
6 of every 1,000. Thank you.
Lots more than 2%.
I'm emotional. Yeah. Rape is also punished the least of all violent crimes. Rape is the only crime wherein the rape kit is, which is the forensic evidence that the survivor or the victim of the crime has to pay for her own kit in 31 states. Rapists have access to their rape babies, if the woman has a baby from the rape, in 31 states. speak, but we all need to come out and tell our secrets. We all need to tell everyone we can so that people can see us. We are not invisible anymore. No more of this. I'm never coming back for this. We're not going to have another Anita Hill. We're not going to have another Dr. Blasey Ford, because we're all Anita Hill. We're all Dr. Blasey Ford.
Good afternoon, my friends, my siblings. My name is Mercedes Yvonne Lysaker. I am from New York City, the greatest city in the world. I've been reflecting on our system of representative democracy. There are hundreds and hundreds of millions in our country who are living with the right to vote, and there are only 100 U.S. senators to represent all of us. 100 people have the power to make this happen or make this stop. 100 people for the millions and millions and millions. The one thing that these millions have in common, the one thing that the senators have in common, is we are all human beings. Human beings have tremendous capacity for love, for passion, for goodness, for beauty, for joy. But we also have capacity for evil, for ugliness, for hatred, for apathy, for sorrow, for rage. The U.S. senators who will be voting today have a choice. They can choose to support one of those capacities. They can choose to support the capacity for love, or they can choose to support the capacity for hatred. They can make a choice that is not just for life, that is not just for beauty, but for livelihood, for the right of every American to live a beautiful, meaningful life. They can make that choice, or they can make the choice for evil. They can make the choice for apathy, for darkness, for ugliness. 100 people have that choice. They know what the right choice is, whether or not they move, whether or not the Spirit moves them to vote with the right choice. That's up to them, up to those 100 people. Thankfully, November is coming. But I'm more than that. I'm an immigrant, I'm a Muslim, I'm a woman. Now I'm a law student here in Washington, D.C. Like many of us here, I think I've spent the last 2 weeks in some sort of a daze. I've been going through phases of feeling totally dysfunctional, and one of the only things that's given me strength is all of the amazing women in my life who have reached out to deepen our connections, and that's why I'm here, really. I don't know what's going to happen. I have a pretty good feeling what's going to happen today, but at least we're all here together, building our connections with one another, building our community, validating each other, letting us know that there are people out there who believe in one another. We don't need to rely on these people in power. We have all of these beautiful people that we're standing next to. And I just want to say how deeply I love all of the brave women and survivors who have come here and censored themselves, despite it being incredibly difficult and re-traumatizing. And I have so much endless love and compassion for everybody who's been unable to come forward, unable to come to something like this. I know how that feels. I didn't know if I would be able to come to this today, but I came. I didn't know if I would be able to speak, but now I'm speaking. And yeah, I'm ready to break down the wall of shame. I'm not ashamed to be who I am, and thank you everyone for being here.
No more secrets! No more lies! 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 No more secrets! No more lies!
My wife is a survivor of 2 rapes and another sexual assault, but that's not why I came here. It happens to most women I know. Why I came here is because they say that this is a he said, she said. It is not. She has evidence, and she's provided it. In her testimony, Dr. Blasey Ford described the house that she was attacked in, not just the people who were there. Let me go through this. Dr. Blasey Ford testified she was attacked at a gathering that included Brett Kavanaugh, Judge, PJ Squee, and at least one more boy. She testified that Brett and Judge were drunk at this gathering. Brett Kavanaugh's calendar said for July 1st of '82 that he was at Timmy's with Judge, PJ, and Squee for beer. Brett Kavanaugh testified that Timmy was Tim Gaudette. The news articles have said that Tim Gaudette was living with his mother, Maureen Gaudette, in 1982. Montgomery County public documents at the courthouse say that Maureen Gaudette lived at 507 Azalea Drive, Rockville, Maryland in 1983. Dr. Ford testified the house in which she was attacked had no bathroom on the ground floor, so she had to go upstairs to get to the bathroom. Web real estate pages currently will state that 507 Azalea is a 2-story townhouse with only 1 bathroom. It doesn't state, but people who've been there have said the bathroom is upstairs. A news organization, Inside Edition, visited the house but found no one home. They were allowed to enter a similar house with the same floor plan, and they found a bedroom at the very top of the narrow stairs, which was opposite a bathroom. They have a video in there that shows the house, and it shows narrow walls opposite each other on the way down the stairway. And Dr. Ford said that Brett Kavanaugh and Judge were bouncing off the walls on the way down the stairs. This is a very accurate description of the house that Brett Kavanaugh's diary said he was in on that date with those people. When Dr. Ford testified to this, she had no knowledge of that he even had a calendar. She had no knowledge of where his calendar said they were. Yet she described in her testimony this exact house that he had mentioned that he had been with those people on that date. Now, I grew up in Montgomery County. I'm living in Montgomery County again in Chevy Chase, Maryland. In Chevy Chase, and when they had the maps, they said, oh, people living in Chevy Chase and Bethesda and Potomac. These are well-to-do or wealthy areas. Almost all the houses are single-family houses. They have bathrooms on the ground floor. They have bathrooms on a second floor. You don't have to go upstairs. But this house, it wasn't in Chevy Chase. It wasn't in Bethesda. It wasn't in Potomac. Timmy's house was in Rockville, Maryland, which is a poorer area, and it was a row house. You don't find those in the areas where they're showing where they show the houses during the hearings.
but she was able to describe this house perfectly. It does not match the house of any of the other friends of Brett Kavanaugh that he listed on his calendar.
Thank you. This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
My name is Jason Drake, and I was sexually assaulted when I was 15 years old. And I'm here to ask every survivor, to ask everyone here, do we want a liar on our court? No! Do we want a rapist on our court? No! Do we want Brett fucking Kavanaugh on our court? No! But the people running our government don't seem to know what no means. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to run these charlatans out of town? Are we going to find people who listen? Are we going to take our government back? And when we do that, what are we going to demand of that government? Are we going to demand that they protect immigrants? Are we going to demand that they protect women? Are we going to demand they protect and believe victims? And so, I say now to anyone running for office in November that if they want to earn my vote, if they want to deserve our vote, they have to commit not just to fighting Brett Kavanaugh now, but to try always to keep him off the court. Because this fight does not stop with the vote today. This is when it begins!
Hello everyone, my name is Lachey. So the theme out here I've been hearing is no secrets, right? Right? No secrets, right? All right, so it's no secret that this country was founded on violence, right? It's founded on sexual violence. So sexual violence is in the fabric of this country. Yes, so indigenous women and black women and women of color have always experienced sexual violence in the fabric of this country, right? So, with that being said, I am offended when we ask ourselves, how is it that we are here today when it has been embedded in the fabric of this country? So when we ask ourselves, how do we end this? We start believing survivors of violence, of all violence, of police violence, of emotional violence, of sexual violence, and we do not justify it. We do not justify it. We understand that it is our duty to fight for freedom. We say this, it is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support one another. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Hi, my name is Jackie, and I first thank you for the platform, for a voice, since so often I have felt like I do not have one. I am a survivor, and I am here because of a conversation I had with my husband this morning when we were talking about Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation, and he asked me, we have 2 daughters, he asked me how we would explain something like this to our daughters. And I told him I had been thinking about not how we would explain his confirmation and things like this, but how we will deal with when they are assaulted, because it is a statistical probability that one of them will. We should not live in a country, no one, anywhere, not just this country, should live accepting the fact that it is a probability that their children will be assaulted. I did not fight when I was raped, but I will fucking fight now. We are told over and over again by the lenient sentencing or no sentencing for rapists, by the no prosecution, the no charges, and this group of 100 men and women who claim to represent us, who only represent their partisan bullshit, who just told us one more time that we do not matter. Well, fuck that. We fucking matter, and we will fucking fight.
Gender equity. And in particular, as we create spaces to speak our truths and tell our stories, I want to personally invite those of you in the crowd who are LGBTQ people, who are queer and trans people, who are people of color and indigenous people, to please come and tell your stories. This is your space too. We know that often when stories are shared, it is the privileged stories that have the opportunity to be told out loud, and I ask that all of us make space for all of our stories. All of our stories are credible. All of our stories, whatever our educational background, whatever our race, whatever language we speak, all of our stories should be believed.
We believe you.
Audre Lorde told us that the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Let us remember that the White House was built by enslaved people. Let us remember that the White House, the Supreme Court, the halls of Congress, these are the master's houses. They were not created, these systems were never created so that queer people like me, so that women of color like me, so that those of us in this crowd who've never seen justice since this country's inception, these were not created for us to thrive. They were certainly not created to give us justice. And so I ask on this day, as we look beyond this vote, beyond the travesty that is being committed by a small group of angry white men against masses of people across this country who have spoken up and risen up, that our fight does not begin or end today. Our fight began generations ago as our ancestors have fought colonialism and enslavement and patriarchy. Our fight began generations ago, and it will continue. And to all of you who have told your stories, it was not for nothing. It is with our stories and with the compassion and love that we share for each other every time those stories are told. That is how we will build justice. It will not be in the halls of Congress. It will be in the hearts and the minds of people across this country who are watching and who will watch as we carry this fight forward. We believe survivors. We believe survivors. We believe survivors! We believe survivors! We believe survivors! Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deb Thompson. I'm a therapist in Frederick, Maryland. I've never said this out loud since I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, my brother-in-law sexually assaulted me. And although my parents believed me, my brother told them, nothing ever happened. And that brother-in-law continued to show up at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I had to sit beside him. and act like nothing had happened. And that 12-year-old did not have a voice. But as I almost come to my 60th birthday, I have found my voice, and I'm going to I saw a photo online this morning, and it was of a picture. I think NPR took a photographer took this picture, and it was of a lady sitting with her head in her hands on a park bench, and he went up to ask her her name, and she didn't answer. She just said, "How much longer? I've been doing this forever. I don't know if I have 30 more years to fight this." But I don't have to fight for another 30 years. There are a lot of people out there that are going to continue this fight. I have been triggered. I have worked with people that have been triggered. I have heard stories for the last few weeks. It doesn't end here. When they vote today, that's not the end. When I no longer can march or stand, that's not the end. You guys will take up the mantle and continue it forward. Thank you for the fight. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ruth. I just have a message for Brett Kavanaugh and for the GOP. What goes around comes around. Looks like there may be marching.
Did anyone else want to say something? You know what? When we get back over there, come find me. I'll remember quickly if I remember your face.
women have rushed the steps of the Capitol. It is an overwhelming sight to march from the Supreme Court, where we were rallying with you earlier, and see hundreds of women on the steps of the Capitol saying, "We believe survivors," with a huge banner that says, "November is coming." And November is coming. So if you're not registered to vote, or if you don't know, figure that out ASAP. There are a lot of early October deadlines. As you can see, a lot of these women have been arrested before. The police are flooding our way. And behind us are hundreds and hundreds more, ready to rush the police line and probably get nonviolently, peacefully arrested. So, the police are here, and they are likely about to start making arrests. This morning there was a lot of drama about whether or not we were allowed in Hart Atrium. It seems that some of our elected representatives are scared of a few people with opinions. But here come the Capitol Police with their blessed zip ties. Up there you see hundreds of organizers with the Women's March. Sorry, I'm just trying to huddle. Behind us we have some Trump friends. God bless them. So out here, as I am sure you can see on the stream, we have people of all ages, genders, races, creeds. People have flown in to take D.C. by storm and say, Susan Collins, Senator Manchin, you can vote yes on Kavanaugh, but America votes no. All of these people are about to be arrested, and maybe a lot of the people behind me too. It's unclear what's going on with the police line, but they do not look happy to see us, which personally I don't understand. I think we're a fantastic group of people. Earlier on the steps of the Supreme Court, when you were with us, we had survivors sharing their story. Resistance Action, which has been emblematic of this past month of protest. Rape survivors getting up and saying, this is what I've been through. If my abuse were about to be a Supreme Court justice, I would be thoroughly horrified, and we're thoroughly horrified now. It's seriously overwhelming down here, guys. I know our shot is of the Capitol steps, but behind Will and I are just truly an overwhelming number of marchers. And we know there are more at the Senate, too. Signs say things like, we will survive this abuse, too. Trust survivors. Kavanaugh, nope. And yes, President Trump, I'm pretty sure these signs were made with love, even if they weren't made in a basement. This guy's got a weird idea of what befits a genuine protest.
I'll get in here. This guy's on more than
Now the women on the steps are chanting, we believe that we will win. And if that's been the theme of the filibusters and speeches and nonviolent actions over the past couple days, it's even if we lose the Supreme Court seat, we can't lose this fight. The energy has been too galvanized and instigated by the truly just unacceptable way the Supreme Court hearing has gone. They're not even holding to the semblance of decency anymore, and America's women are pissed. Frankly, everyone's pissed, but it's beautiful and overwhelming to be in a movement started, led, and majority held by women. There are even a couple kids on the steps. I don't know if you guys can see that, but Now the survivors are chanting, well, I suppose they're not all survivors. The women on the steps are chanting, no means no. Something that Kavanaugh doesn't seem to internalize either in his bizarre party exploits or his legal ones. One of the things that's been brought up at these protests long before the sexual assault and rape allegations were brought forth is that this is a man whose legal record was suspect long before any of this. He's ruled in truly bizarre ways on a lot of nonpartisan decisions, which lead a lot of legal scholars, many of whom have petitioned to have him removed, to believe that he is not a suitable, nonpartisan, level-headed intellectual pick for something like the Supreme Court. His rulings tend to be incredibly politically motivated. He did, after all, work in the Bush White House. This is a man who has been incredibly out there about the fact that he does not believe in a woman's right to choose, but even beyond that, may not display a basic fluency about what female reproductive health looks like, calling birth control an abortion pill. This is not somebody with the intellectual or temperamental bandwidth to be ruling in incredibly stressful situations about incredibly nuanced cases. Even if he weren't a rapist, this man would not be a good fit for the court. Now the women are seated on the steps. It looks like it's going to be a minute here. The people behind me are chanting, "Vote them out." So once again, if you have not registered to vote, or if you haven't checked to make sure your registration is still available, go to vote411.com or any number of other sites and resources, which will allow you to ensure that you're ready to vote for midterms, because this may be one of the most important election cycles of our lifetimes. It will be a referendum not just on Trump, but everything we've seen. The Republican Party, never a big place in my heart, has lost its mind. And a lot of Republicans even feel that way, which is why all of us are so angry.
Don't hit my camera. You can ask me. Don't put it right in front of mine, man. I was sitting right here. You put it in front of mine. I'm going to move it if you do that. I'm going to ask before you move it. I hear you. You didn't listen. Because I didn't hear you. Yeah, okay. So then all of it is touching love until it's going to the
get to see this because it's kind of ridiculous. That's what they set up for the press pen. That's your freedom of the press right there. About like 10 by 15 foot square penned in cage.
Oh, they're leaving instead of getting arrested. Mike, here's what Mike, understand this. They're in violation of the law. No, it's not the third warning. You're in violation of the law. So don't let your people who have a code of ethics come up here and violate the law.
last 50, you can go over there and tell him if he wants to get arrested.
And the only question is if we could get over there to get a view of them, but I doubt it.
Okay. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no worries at all.
Coming that hot.
So for those just tuning in now, we have, again, hundreds of women peacefully demonstrating on the steps of the Senate. They're being arrested, put in zip ties, and taken to the side. Behind me, there are hundreds of people who have marched to the Senate today, rallied at the Supreme Court, shared their stories on the steps of the Supreme Court. And it really is a beautiful sight to behold. We have about, I don't know how many policemen here, definitely a couple hundred at least, but a lot. And the energy here is overwhelming. Yesterday, the movement was dealt a disappointing blow when we found out that Senator Collins and Senator Manchin would be voting to confirm Kavanaugh. But The reality is we knew he was likely to be confirmed when this fight began. And people are not losing hope. The energy that's been instigated by these actions and storytelling and going to senator offices and saying, hey, I'm a victim of sexual assault. This is why this issue is so much broader than my own individual story. It's been overwhelming. And all of these, mostly women, but men too, will absolutely be showing up in November and continue to show up on this issue. A lot of people have been very eloquent about the fact that even if Kavanaugh is confirmed, there are steps to be taken. This is a man who's lied under oath, which is more than just cause for judicial impeachment. And there are also a lot of conversations to be had about whether or not the way we do Supreme Court nominations even makes sense. On one of our streams earlier in the month, I was lucky enough to interview some Georgetown law students, and they were very adamant about the fact that a lifetime appointment was a political cause instituted by a different time. When our founding fathers wrote that into the rules of our nation, it was thought to be a 10 or 20-year appointment, as opposed to now where Kavanaugh could be there for decades and decades and decades, in a way where he'd be shaping.
Stand here with me. You can go inside.
This is a man who would be shaping the laws of our country for generations in a way that's incredibly inappropriate, even if he were a valid nominee, which absolutely I think we can say with certainty he is not.
Alex is in there in the middle.
Sorry, there's some wrangling at the press line. Here you go. The energy here really is overwhelmingly positive. We knew there was going to be some civil disobedience today, but to watch protesters march onto the Capitol steps, it was an overwhelming feeling of hope and pride, I think, for everybody sitting here watching. I ran into a woman, hopefully we'll get to interview her in a minute here, in a handmaid's costume, and she said, you know, the funniest thing about this is we used to be allowed on the Senate steps. It seems that the goalpost for civic engagement keeps getting moved back further and further.
Do you need anything?
The reality is that the Senate and the House are both public spaces funded by the taxpayers. I've expressed a lot of my frustration on this stream about the fact that as much as I'm incredibly proud of everyone getting arrested, it's a little bit absurd that these women are being arrested just for sharing their opinions.
Jason, text me. I can't hear you. Sorry, it's okay.
So it looks like we're through a little over the first half of arrests. Women are coming down with their fists in the air with signs that say, fighting for our lives, trust women, Kavanaugh. These women are not playing around. And there is absolutely no doubt that when they leave here, they will continue to be just as involved. Not just with the confirmation of Gremlin sleazebag Kavanaugh, but in all processes, in all checks and balances that are meant to protect the health of our democratic institutions, and instead have been flagrantly manipulated by right-wing money mongers for the sake of their own pocketbooks. It truly is heartbreaking and disappointing. But luckily, nobody here is going to watch this happen without a fight. As you can see right in front of us, the women getting arrested are really women of all ages. Some of these women look like college students, and a lot of women who have expressed that they've been protesting these things for generations. And some of whom, though they are older, this is their first protest. This is their first civil disobedience arrest. So many women, both a heartbreaking and empowering amount, have said this is the first time they've shared their stories. And they didn't share them with their friends or their family. They shared them in Senate office buildings to their elected officials. I think one of the many disappointments about Susan Collins' decision to vote and confirm this man is that we have brought to you films of women sitting in for all month to women, her constituents, trying to get a meeting with her, trying to speak with her, typically to no avail. And people have walked away feeling not just that she voted against their interests, but that she wasn't listening to them and that she wasn't available to hear the concerns of the people she was sworn to represent. As you can see, the women who have not yet been arrested are not slowing down. They are chanting now, vote them out. And we absolutely will be doing that. I see a lot of familiar faces up there, but also a lot of unfamiliar faces. This issue has brought an overwhelming number of people to D.C. who don't normally engage in this way, but who've been galvanized by the overwhelming obviousness and corruption of the way this hearing has been held in pretty much every level, whether it's the fact that this is somebody who hasn't disclosed all his public documents, somebody who has a lot of financially questionable decisions in his very obvious past, to the fact that this is somebody who went on a partisan rant in his opening statements, and finally, perhaps most damningly, this is somebody who has been repeatedly accused of rape and sexual assault by women who absolutely have no reason to lie and definitely appear not to be doing so. So we're going to fall back and try to talk to some people. There really just is a crazy amount of amazing people here, and we'd love to have them share their stories with you. As you can see, along with the hundreds getting arrested on the steps, we have hundreds up beneath watching, cheering, holding the space. Uh-oh, Trump supporters, avoid, avoid, avoid.
Do you want to just...
I'll just go grab someone. Is that okay? Activiers, I am here with a brilliant young resistor. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Meg Coglinis.
Okay. Meg, what does your sign say?
It says, Susan Collins, does your husband know you're fucking us?
Now, what could you possibly mean by that? Because I'm a big fan of where you're going with this.
It means Susan Collins is a traitor to women. She's a coward. I'm sorry to say that I'm not surprised that she voted the way she voted and will vote the way that she's going to vote, but as women, you hope that you can believe in other women and trust them to make the right decisions and believe survivors and believe other women, and she has completely failed us.
I think that's a really profound point. One of the things that Republicans use to weaponize us is, oh, we have these 3 blonde women who agree with us, therefore we're not sexist. But we know that's not true, don't we?
Yeah, not all women are good.
Not all women are good, and a lot of women will manipulate the power structure and side with sexist gremlins for their own benefit. But that doesn't mean that feminists are lying, correct?
Correct.
So would you like to tell our viewers at home who are inspired by all your energies and actions?
Please vote. We have 30 days. As of today, we have 1 month until Election Day. Please get out there and vote. Vote them out.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
As you can see, we're down to maybe our last 30 arrests or so. The people are joyful and excited and happy to be here. We may be down to some of the last arrests, but nobody's losing steam. All right, I'm here with some beautiful, brilliant young people. All right, guys, what brings you out here today?
We're actually on a trip from our school, Indiana University, and it's our fall break, so we're just lucky to be out here during this time. And so in all of our free time, we've been going to protest, like we saw you yesterday, and today we came out here pretty early in the morning. Yeah.
That's awesome! So what are people at Indiana University saying about all this?
A lot of Indiana University supports Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and all survivors of sexual assault, and that's why we're here today, because we want to stand with survivors and say that we believe you and we believe that Kavanaugh should not be confirmed today.
Yeah, and you guys are all educated people. You're brilliant students. It's so obvious, right, that the Republicans are hacking the precedent of our country. What are you guys going to do about that? Because you're the future and whatnot.
Well, we're going to vote, yeah. We've been doing registration drives around campus. We're ready. We're out here. We're going to vote them out.
That's so exciting. Are there lots of Republicans in Indiana?
Yes.
Yes, Indiana is a red state, but people don't, they underestimate the Democrats and everybody who's really out here to fight for better change. I mean, especially in Bloomington, Indiana University, there's a lot of really great people. We have a candidate, Liz Watson, who's running in the 9th District, and we really believe in her. And so, yeah, Democrats exist in Indiana. They're scarce, but we're ready to fight.
Thank you so much, guys. Is there anything else you want to tell our viewers?
Just encourage young people to go to the polls in November and vote. Vote if you really want to see change.
Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. So it looks like we're really down to the last arrest. And as you've been seeing, all these women are coming down with their fists held high in the air. They are not flagging, they are not ashamed, they are happy to be here, and they know exactly what they're fighting for. Linda Sarsour said in one of her many wonderful speeches this week, she said, we are not just running around, we are not messing around, we know exactly what we're here, we know exactly what we're asking for, and that seems to mirror the intensity and organization of everybody we've been seeing protesting all month.